Alright, this project is going to be on a concept called overloading, and we're going to start by just working with a quote-unquote regular cube with a single constructor and a couple of methods. And so this is the cube.java that I had on Canvas that everybody hopefully downloaded. We have our three instance variables of length, width, and height, and our constructor sets those three. Then we have two methods, getVolume, which uses the length, the width, and the height to calculate the volume, and a method to calculate the surface area. I also wrote a runner, and in the original runner, or in the only runner I used actually, for that first cube, we have cube C1 equals etc. And I get that the volume is 4 and the surface area is 16. Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my original cube program, and I did a save as, and I called it cube2. I have my same instance variables, but now I've added a couple of constructors. My first one has no parameters, and I'm going to make what I called a unit cube. Length, width, and height are all 1. And so I don't need to pass anything in. I am simply setting those variables equal to 1 each. I have a second constructor. I think that's my second. Yeah, my second constructor called cube2. Notice exactly the same name. I now have a different number of parameters. I now have 2, where I'm going to set the length and the width, and it's going to instantiate a cube with the designated length and width, and we're going to set the height later, and we'll talk about why. Now, in this case, I set height to equal 0. I could equally well have set the height to 1. We're going to eventually reset that. And then here is my original constructor with length, width, and height. This is possible because I'm creating different constructors for the same class using different numbers of parameters. And ultimately, if I change the variable type or the number, then I can have a legitimate constructor. We will see more examples of this later. All right, because in this particular constructor, I have set it up so that the height is 0. I eventually want to have a method called setHeight, and I can use that to then put any value in for the height that I want. What I'm also going to do is have something that's called calculateHeight, where I'm going to send in a designated volume and calculate the height. Now, since height is an instance variable, then once I have calculated that height, it will be available for use. And now I have a getHeight, so I can then return this value. So let's see how that works. Let's go to our runner, and just so that we don't get completely confused, or at least I don't get completely confused, I'm going to comment out that, and I think what we're going to do, actually we'll comment out both of these, because if you look at this, that's going to be this cube where I have declared my unit cube, so volume is going to be 1 and surface area is going to be 6. I'm now going to set two parameters, and this would be length and width. And then in this case, I'm going to set height. And notice that this doesn't return anything. So let's look a second. Here we go. My set height method is void. It returns nothing. And it takes the height that I send in and sets my instance height to that. So I'm doing that, and then I can get volume. Notice that vol was, now I'm going to have to make this a double because I commented this volume out. I now have to set that as a double, but I'm going to get that volume once I have set the height. And then what I'm going to do is in my third one of these, I'm going to send in a length and width, and then I'm going to calculate the height and print it out. So to keep us as little confusion as possible, I'm going to get rid of all of that stuff. All right, so now the only thing I've got is cube 2 sending in a length and width, setting the height, getting a volume, and a surface area. Okay. And it says, I need to declare that as a double as well. Okay. And now we can run this. And it says that my volume is 18 and my surface area is 42. Okay. So this just effectively is my normal cube for our intents and purposes. Now let's take this one out. And I want to use this one, but I don't want this stuff. There we go. Make sure that's going to work. Okay, so in this case, cube 2 C23 is a new cube, same length and width, but now I took the volume from this one, which was 18, and I have a calculate height, so this should calculate how high the cube should be to have a volume of 18, and then I'll print that height out, H-E-I-G-H, and I just abbreviated for fun. All right, so let's see if that works. All right, so it's 3, which is the value I sent in. Okay, so notice that as we've gone through this, I have two parameters, no parameters, and then up here I had all 3. And if I get really excited about it, I'm now going to have to remove some doubles here. And that needs to stay. All right. Now see if I got everything right. Alrighty. All right, so now I'm going to run from the same runner a 3 parameter, a no parameter, and 2 parameter cubes. And they all work. Okay, so the whole idea here is that I can have as many different cubes as I have constructors, and I can have as many constructors as I want as long as the number of and type of parameters are different. So I can have none, I can have 2, and I can have 3, and the only one I didn't use was to have 1 parameter. So this is the concept of overloading, where I have overloaded a constructor. And we will get into overloading methods later.